going to record. I meant to actually start it before we started diving in, but so yeah, he talks about in the book, Royce, the book that I just described. He talked about how there's a good possibility you manifested the book. He says, but did you steal it? Did you buy it? Did you did you borrow it? However it came into your experience, you manifested it. And that's one of the things that I've actually found in my own personal life is that I send I'll have a thought about something and it'll turn around and manifest. And so I think that Abraham Hicks has actually talked about this, how we're always manifesting. We're manifesting machines. And I think Royce talks about the same thing, is that we're constantly setting things into the ether, or as Neville Goddard, he's another guy that inspired, certainly things that his teachings that I've actually kind of dove into, that talked about how impressing your subconscious mind actually will bring things back into your life, or bring things into your life. So yes, and having that vibe, actually having the feeling. He talks about the feeling, having having the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and we'll talk about that too. So great. That's great that a couple of you actually have done something to actually kind of done some scripting, or certainly set some things in motion, so you know how the law of attraction actually works. So one of the things that Royce talks about in the book, and certainly it's something that I had learned a long time ago, and when I was teaching, so I don't know whether I mentioned, I don't think I did. So a lot of years ago, I actually taught a class. For 18 months, I taught a class the class was called Creating Your Success. And I had actually attracted a lot of students. We would meet every 2 weeks, and I would just teach them the success principles. And those that actually applied would actually genuinely see their lives changing. But for one reason or another, I actually stopped teaching it. And then I would I'd circle back, start teaching it again, and it eventually would land on having this mastermind where I would just meet with just a couple of folks, and we were actually creating things in our lives. It happened pretty quickly. So one of the things that I actually learned, certainly he talks about in the book, is having permission to be selfish. Because one of the things that I've actually learned in my own life is that I can't really help anybody. I can help people, but I certainly can help them more if I actually focus on myself first. If I actually am, if I'm, or here is a great example. If I'm able to actually manifest things in my own personal life, then I'm able to teach others how to manifest things in theirs. And so I invited my best friend. Unfortunately, he didn't make it tonight, but he was my guinea pig. So I thought, well, if I could create something in my own life, that's great. But if I can get him to create something in his life using my techniques, then I know that it isn't just, this one offset, that it wasn't just a stroke of luck that actually that something worked. If two or more people can actually do it, then certainly there's something to it. So, but one of the things, again, actually, I realize that selfishness has a negative connotation, but really, you need to focus on your own personal happiness in life, because a lot of people say they want to make you happy. But the unfortunate thing is, happiness is a thing from inside out, and you can't make someone else happy, and you need to focus on your own, basically. And that's something that I've had to kind of remind myself a lot of times in my life. I'm like, you know what, Ray, you really need to circle back to focus on your own experience. Because one of the things that I've actually learned in my life is that when you come into this life, you do have one responsibility, and that is to look after your life experience. Certainly, you look after people, look after your kids, look after your parents, look after your friends, but you really do need to look after your own personal life experience. Because at the end of the day, you want to leave this life fulfilled. But the only way that really that's going to happen is if you're actually being selfish and focusing on your own experience. So I hope everyone can relate to that, and I welcome some feedback if somebody wanted to add to that. No? Okay. So one of the things I have learned in my own personal life is that we create things twice. We first create them in imagination, and imagination is defined as the workings in your mind, whether you're creating pictures in your mind, or you're having conversations in your mind, or you're actually, something that's coming from your mind is creating a feeling in your body. It all comes down to imagination. So you first created an imagination, and then it's created into the 3D. Abraham Hicks would say that what do they say? You actually create your vortex. You create it in your vortex, and then the infinite source actually creates it into your 3D. So yeah, basically it's created two ways, or not two ways, but twice. It's the first in your imagination and then into the 3D. And so one of the things that I talked about in my mastermind group, something that I know well, again, I can only really speak from my own experience, is that I've created a lot of things in my life. And it has been on the heels of me creating it in imagination. The thing that really worked for me when I was younger is that I would throw my headphones on and I would listen to my favorite music, and I would imagine my life being different. And I was able to create a lot of things. I was able to create relationships. I was able to create me becoming a disc jockey, me becoming a club promoter, me becoming a club owner, and a slew of other things that, just aren't coming off the top of my head. But here's something that I actually did learn, is that when I wasn't using imagination, when I was just trying to move the 3D, when I was trying to move this or move that, or trying to inspire or push people to do this and that, it never really worked out. At the end of the day, I never really created any success with that way, or heading in that channel or that direction. I realized that I had to create it in mind first. And if you actually follow some famous people, they talk about this. Jim Carrey, Lady Gaga, 50 Cent, Oprah Winfrey, they all talk about actually creating things twice. Well, they probably don't say that specifically, but they do talk about how they believe in the law of attraction, how they're actually creating things in their mind first, and things actually kind of fall into place to bring them to the things or their goals or the things they're actually imagining. And I'm more than sure that hopefully you've all experienced that to some degree. If you wanted to anybody wants to share their experience?
Well, I certainly think that we create from the inner, but most people don't realize that they look at the outer and they try to create from the outer and try to create the world by what they see with their eyes and with their experiences, and that gets them into trouble. I mean, I have seen many times that I have all the troubles that I've ever had was because I was looking at the outer world and trying to fix it, rather than going into the inner world and create what I want. Now, years ago, I wanted to come to Boston. I lived in Kansas City. I was raised Catholic. And when I created a vision board, Unity called it a treasure map, and I put down what I really wanted, it was away from the world that I saw, that was what I was saying was very disruptive, and created a world that was creative. And I was creating the world that I wanted. But most people don't create the world from the inner, they create it from the outer, and it doesn't work. It creates more confusion and more trouble, because I've been there too. I've created problems and I thought, if you could just fix your supervisor, everything would be great in your world. If I could fix my friend, that would be great. If I could fix my parents, that all would change. It never works. Yeah. But you got to go within to that place where you talk about this creative process that has to get, and that's what most people don't understand.
Yeah, but unless, and this is something I actually learned. I mentioned this to people who've never heard of the law of attraction. I'm like, what? They're like, what? They look at you like you have two heads. Like, you can actually do that? That actually works? Like, yeah, here they're either like they're stepping away, or they're like, tell me more. I want to learn. Like my goddaughter is actually a great example. And usually when you tell somebody that you're able to manifest money, they're like, well, I want to hear this. How do we manifest
Yes.
money?
Yes.
Anyone else want to share
Yes.
their experience with imagination or using the law of attraction?
Well, actually, we're already doing that, I think, and just not realizing it. So like our negative thoughts materialize sometimes. And so if we realize that we're manifesting that negativity, then we can do something about it. We can change it and change our thinking and change how we're manifesting.
So I was sharing with Reverend Betty earlier, before everyone else jumped on the call, that I just took on this new job recently, and I'm having a difficult time with my manager. She's a micromanager, and I I ended up saying, talking to a coworker, saying that I don't know how long I'm going to last here. Well, she ends up telling someone, who then turns around and tells the manager, and the manager calls me in the office. Hey, I hear you're thinking of quitting. I'm like, no, listen, I might have said something off the cuff. It's taken out of context. It's really because I'm not thinking of quitting. So I thought to myself, but you know what? Something needs to be done about this manager, her micromanaging. And so I thought, but you know what? I'm not going to say anything more. Instead, I'm actually just going to think about it. I'm going to think about
Have you
things
ever
like,
thought about the universe has ears?
Yes.
exactly. So my thought was, you know what? What I'm going to do is think right. That, this is it's going to fix itself. Well, today her boss called us all into a meeting, and they basically called her they called her out. They called her out. So either she changes her way, her less micromanaging and allowing things to actually get out there. Otherwise, he says he's gonna change the structure of that office.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
we'll see. But like I said, it was me that I just thought about it and set it in motion, and now it's coming to pass. But I'll have a conversation with her. As a matter of fact, I had a passing thought to actually invite her to the call tonight. But I was like, nah, you know what? She's so upset now because on the way out, I could see that she was really upset. But I thought that you could appreciate that, Reverend Henry, because I
Oh,
know that you had
yes.
your trials and tribulations with the manager. So what about scripting? So one of the things I've actually learned about scripting is that when you're scripting, you're actually imagining. At least I can really only speak from my own experience. But when I'm writing something out, I'm either creating pictures in my mind, or I'm actually saying the words as I'm writing them out. And a good possibility is, or most of the time, I'm actually feeling what I'm actually writing. So what I just described is basically imagination. So when I'm scripting, I'm imagining it. And that's what I believe is actually, so if imagination did work for me, because I was able to create a lot, scripting is actually double, because it makes it's more focused. That's one of the things because I'm sure that you've all had some issues where you try to imagine something, or maybe you haven't. I don't know. Maybe you're better than I am, even though I teach this stuff. Many a times I've actually thrown the headphones on, or certainly I've tried to imagine something, and it's not coming. My mind continues to wander. But when I'm scripting, I'm actually imagining, and it's keeping me focused. And that's why I think imagination is great, but I think scripting is even more powerful, because you're actually doing both at the same time. Yeah, so why is scripting so powerful all right, so one of the things that he talks about in the book is this thing about the reticular activating system. And so basically your RES, reticular activating system, is the filter in your mind. What it does is it filters out what you don't want and filters out what you do want. The unfortunate thing is that here's a great example. Several months ago, I needed a new car. And so I thought to myself, what do I want? Well, I want a reliable car. By the way, for a lot of years, I drove a BMW X5 and it was fine and good. As a matter of fact, I think I kept it together by the thoughts I kept. I'm like, yeah, you're a great vehicle. I love you. You know, it's actually, you're taking care of me, but eventually it ran out and it became a money pit. So I had to dump it. But for about a month or so, a couple of months, actually, I was actually on foot while I was actually in the process of buying another car. And so one of the things I actually started to imagine was a new blue Subaru, because Subarus are reliable. I think that on average, they'll drive 250,000 miles before they start giving out. And I thought, well, that's a reliable vehicle. Not to mention they're inexpensive. So that's what I focused on a new blue Subaru. And so as I started to focus on a new blue Subaru, that actually started to show up a lot. I mean, wherever I turned, I saw a blue Subaru. And so that's how the RES, the reticular activating system, works. When you focus, when you tell your mind that something is important, it actually programs it. And what it does is starts to filter out things that you don't want, cars that I don't want, and starts to bring in the things that I do want, which is that new blue Subaru. Now, one of the things that most people won't talk about with the RES is this thing that it not only programs your filters, but I think impresses your subconscious mind, which starts the ball rolling on manifesting it. So it isn't just a filtering out the things that you don't want, allowing the things that you do want, but it's also programming your subconscious mind to help manifest it. They say that, oh, you know, the vehicles are always there. You just weren't missing. You just weren't seeing them. But when you programmed your RAS, that's when you actually start. I believe that somewhat, but I think more so is that now I'm actually manifesting it. Neville Goddard would call it birds before land, from this Noah and the ark, where he saw the birds before he saw land. And this is basically saying that your things are actually starting to show up on your radar before your manifestation actually comes to pass. Any questions so far? So one of the, something else that I actually realized that scripting does help, and perhaps maybe most of you can relate to this, is this double-mindedness. Now, he doesn't talk about this in the book, but this is certainly something that I've experienced. So say I want something, but then acknowledge that I don't have it. I want it, but say to myself, no, I don't have it. And this going back and forth actually keeps it. And you see this in people in years. You know, I want a relationship, but I don't have the person that I want to love. I want to be in a relationship. I want to find my soulmate. My soulmate hasn't shown up yet. That double-mindedness, folks, is the thing that actually keeps you from actually manifesting the things in your life. It is brutal how that actually works. And it's something that I didn't realize until I'm like, wait a minute, double-mindedness. There it is. Throughout the day. You know, one of the things that I've actually learned in manifesting is that you want to try to do it before you go to sleep and when you first wake up, because you're in that state, that the right state to actually program your vibration, your subconscious mind, certainly to impress, well, whatever, you know, your vibration, your inner self, your whatever. You're actually programming yourself with your desire before you go to sleep. That's the best time to do it, because you're in that hypnagogic. It's this dream. You're not sleeping and you're not awake. If you take something, Neville Goddard would talk about this, is actually taking something into the dream world will actually program your subconscious mind. It's just like actually getting someone hypnotizing you. You can actually change things if you take a short phrase into your sleep. You'll actually program your subconscious mind.
Yes.
However, if throughout the day I'm thinking about the lack of or not having what I want, I'm actually keeping it. So here I am programming my mind and then unprogramming or programming my mind with not having it throughout the day. That was me. And I think that a lot of people have that same issue. And if someone wants to share experience,
I
or
mean,
have
Well,
any questions?
I would just
Oh.
say that, I would just say that I am definitely that person as well. Yeah,
you,
it's like I do it and then it's like I think about, oh, how, then I get into the action of it, which is not what I have to do at all. All I have to do is stay away from the thought of it really, and then it will come to me, but it's like,
Yes.
I can't help but double dip backward into it and yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think Abraham Hicks would say that we're addicted to the 3D. So I don't want to go back to imagining, or I can't think about what I want when I'm looking out into the 3D and seeing that I don't have what I want.
Yeah.
I remember actually saying, "Hi, what is this? When is it going to come to me?" For Christ's sakes, this is before I knew anything about manifesting. Well, hell, yeah, even after teaching it, I was like, "What's going on here? Why don't I have what I want?" And it turns out it's that double-mindedness. No one, I didn't, I want to say I heard that, I learned that, I want to say a good six months ago. And it's funny that I've been teaching this for so many years. So, all right, so let's, unless somebody has any questions so far.
Ray, I just wanted to add,
Sure, sure.
or share that I discovered for me, the key is, excuse me, that there's usually a but in the middle of the thought. And everything after the but is what keeps it from coming. So I might say, I want a chocolate cake from Star Market, but I don't have a way to get there today, or but I don't have the money for it. So I've learned to stop myself when I get to the but. I go, stay with the first part. I want a chocolate cake from Star Market. Thank you, universe.
Or orange cranberry muffin.
Yeah, orange
Mm.
cranberry walnut muffins that Henry brings to church on Sundays. I'm addicted. I am addicted.
But and yet for some odd reason, they don't sell at the store that you.
They don't have them at Market Basket, but I'm
Market
telling you
basket.
that they will have it because there were some crackers that what's her name? Zoe brought these wonderful crackers called Mary's Gone Crackers. Kind of a play on words. She had gotten it at Whole Foods, and I don't shop at Whole Foods, so I just kept looking and looking, and finally one day I found them. They were way down at the end of this aisle. It seemed to me they had them in the wrong place, but I found it, and I thought, okay, the muffins are coming. The cranberry orange walnut muffins are coming.
I think that what you should do is imagine you actually eating and enjoying them. That's it's not buying them. It's actually you enjoying them,
Eating
because
them,
at the end of the
yes.
day, you don't want to you're not going to enjoy buying them. You're going to enjoy eating, consuming them.
Yes.
Yeah, they're so delicious. But I was also going to share with relationships with people. I think I've already shared this with Ray, but I don't think I've shared it with the rest of the group. Years ago, when I was working for Fleet Bank, um, I was in the compliance department, which is very similar to the law department. And we wrote lots of reports about changes in banking laws. And it was a pretty big department. There were about 35 people there, and there were a couple of folks in particular that I really had a lot of trouble getting along with, and I had to work with them, and I really didn't want to leave. So my prayer was, help me to figure out how to get along with them. I did not pray to change them. I did not pray for them to go away or any of that. I prayed, change something in me that will allow me to get along. Well, within about 6 months, one of them got transferred to the Providence, Rhode Island offices of Fleet, and the other one got a job offer from a different bank and left the company altogether. And that was just a real revelation to me because I thought, oh, I got to remember to pray that way every time, that it's something in me that needs to change so that I can manifest what it is that I want to manifest.
So, A lot of, so, last year, I think it was actually, where I'd stopped in, Jamestown, New York. They have a museum that's dedicated to Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz.
Oh,
Wow.
And so there was something that actually showed up on my radar, a story about her I wasn't aware of. Because this museum shows her having her own studio and all these things. But they didn't mention that at one point she was actually fired from that studio
mhm.
and that she had actually scripted out what she wanted. She wanted to actually end up
Oh.
back at that studio and then firing all those people. She actually lived that out. She actually went back to that studio and ended up firing the people that fired her.
Yes.
So I didn't, it was a book that I actually read it. And this guy actually, the person that inspired her to do it was the guy that wrote it in the book. I was like, wow, I wasn't aware of this about her. But she had so much success in her life. She had to know she was doing something. I mean, because you got to know. I mean, it isn't. Um, I don't know, because I follow some famous people, and of course there was this one singer that I think is really, his name is Prince Royce, very talented Spanish singer, and I thought to myself, he's got to know that he's doing it. And shortly after, I saw an interview, and he does know what he's doing, and so she knew what she was doing, and as I mentioned, these famous people, they know what they're doing. And those that actually have found success, it isn't an accident. It isn't by accident that they continue to have success in their lives. Somebody actually used J Lo and Mark Anthony. They were married for several years, had a couple of
Oh,
kids.
God. Yeah.
While they were together, their careers had tanked. But as soon as they broke up, they focused on their success again, and then they flourished. Now they're famous again. And it was bizarre how that was, but it goes back to what we were talking about earlier in this discussion, is that if you really want to have success in your life, you have to be selfish about it. You got to be able to focus on you. Certainly don't take away from someone else. However, you do need to focus on yourself. So, all right,
Well,
go ahead. Go ahead.
one of the things that I think probably for me is that I don't think I was taught that, how to be successful. I mean, I was taught to um, live like my parents did at a certain level. And they were, we were not taught like, that would be, and as far as being raised Catholic, you just didn't never think about being successful. That was being selfish. We were never taught that. You have to be humble, and and keep your head down. And the idea that you were talking about, all the people that were successful realized they had that secret ingredient within them to do what they wanted to do. And I don't think that most people were ever taught that, or ever felt that everything they were do was leading to their success. And success that they attributed to, like Lucille Ball or Oprah. All of these people had it within them. They said, you know what? No matter what, they are going to be successful, and they're not going to back down, and they were going to move forward in their life, and they would not let conditions out there change them. And I think that's a big difference between how most people are raised.
Yeah.
So we got to overcome all this stuff that we're taught, and move up. And then, like you're talking about, the scripting is to script your successful life.
Mm.
So,
at the highest level rather than at the lowest.
right, and to capitalize on what you're saying, add one more thing in. It's really working with an unknown factor. So there's unknown. I mean, my parents were successful, but they never taught me. They just assumed that it would catch on or something like that. So that's like kind of what you're saying. So I feel like a lot of times I'm sitting in an unknown situation. So an unknown, that's what ends me up having a difficult time staying in, the imagination. I have the imagination, but then I'm sitting in an unknown sense of feeling, and then I feel that lost, and then that's what makes me not really always jump into the success of it, because I'm sitting there and it's like, oh, what do I do now? Or how do I, that then I get lost in the how do I instead of staying in the imagination. It's really staying in the imagination, but I forget that because my mind wants to go to my past and look in my file cabinet up here. And it's just a habit, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being, and also knowing what, always staying at the end result. What do you want at the end? You know, we're always getting caught up in the path and all the struggles, but we have to keep the end result in mind through it all. You know, it's our journey to the promised land. You know, we got to stay focused on the end result of that promised land rather than, oh my God, it's gonna take this, it's gonna do that. I mean, I'm gonna have struggles, I'm gonna get confused, I'm gonna get lost. And so what? You still have to keep your mind focused on the end result.
Mhm.
So the thing that I learned from my mom, and I was brought up in a single parent home, is that a good work ethic. She taught me how to actually work hard. But I would later find out, I realized that it isn't just that. It
That's
isn't just
it.
working hard. There's another element to it. And later on, I would find out. So what I was inspired by Tony Robbins. So just before I graduated, I think I bought his group of tapes,
Yeah.
and I learned a lot about it comes down to mindset. And I would let my best friend, borrow it, and it turned around and inspired him as well. So this thing about, certainly my mom taught me well. However, she didn't know how to create success, so she wasn't able to teach me either, and neither was anybody else. Even my mentor, he
Mhm.
struggled, and but he actually gave me his sense of humor. I got his sense of humor, and certainly his way of treating or being with people. But again, he wasn't able to teach me how to be successful either, because he wasn't. So
Mhm.
you can't. I don't think that you could teach anybody where you haven't already learned. You can only really teach someone what you already know, not necessarily something that you don't know. You can't teach someone what you don't know,
Well,
unfortunately.
you know, I think we try our best to teach theory, the theoretical part of how to be successful, but the experience is something that's individualized. Every one of us has a certain path they have to go through to be successful, and there's no two paths that are alike. And so we are learning and growing from our own individual experience of what we've learned about the theory of being successful. And whatever that we've learned to, we're going to experience it, or we're going to learn from doing rather than just thinking about it.
So one of the things I did learn is this thing about, and I think that Abraham Hicks would talk about this, about that the how is not your responsibility. You listen for
Yeah.
the cues. Because and this is the reason why I've struggled a lot with my businesses in the past, is that I'm knocking my head against the wall trying to figure it out when it really wasn't, when I should have just listened for the cues. Wasted a lot of
Yeah.
time, wasted a lot of money, wasted a lot of effort in trying to figure it out when I should have just waited for the inspiration. I would have saved myself a lot of grief if I had just done that. And I'm sure everyone can relate to that.
Yes.
So let's dive into it. So one of the things that two things that I want to kind of pull from the book is this is kind of, I think, kind of scripting long term and then scripting short term. So the first thing he would talk about is actually having a want list. And so every morning or every time when you're able to get to it every day, is that you actually sit down and you write anywhere from 5 to 10 things that you want to, any goals or anything you want to manifest uh, sometime in the near future, or perhaps maybe in this maybe 6 months to a year. Things that you actually, I don't think he says that, but certainly this is something that actually worked for me, where I'm writing it out on a daily basis. I'm actually kind of re-imprinting on my subconscious mind, certainly taking it in, reminding myself that these are the things that I want to manifest. A want list. But he actually kind of puts a different spin to it. And this is something I want to kind of show everybody what he says, or kind of put my own little spin to it. He talks about wanting versus intending. So if you actually, if you all want to just give it a, just relax for a moment and think about this. What comes to mind, or how does it feel when you say to yourself, I want $100? For me, it's a pretty good feeling. I want $100, and I could kind of feel how it would feel to actually have that $100. But the thing that he suggests, and it's not just him, I've heard it from other inspirational people or inspirational speakers, is that think about this. I intend to receive $100. I intend to receive $100. Do you see how it's so much more powerful? Because one is actually just is hoping for something. I want it. Not to mention, here's something else that he doesn't, I don't think he mentions in the book, but certainly it's something I've actually learned in my own experience, is that when you want something, if you continue to want it, you'll continue to want it. Because
Yes.
that's that, and I think even Abraham Hicks talks about this, about you're sending that signal out that you want. I want, I want, I want. And when you send that signal, you get back, I want. But if you intend it, I intend to receive it. Number one, it's programming your subconscious mind, and it's also bringing about a different vibration. It really is a different vibration. Intending as opposed to wanting, it's so much more powerful. Do you all see that?
Absolutely.
So Royce suggests 5 to 10 things on a daily basis that you're actually wanting. You call it the want list. He calls it the want list. However, you're actually saying, I intend to receive. I intend to do this. I intend to visit Italy again. By the way, I've manifested 3 trips to Italy, by the way. Which I'm eager to visit again. So does everybody, can everybody see that? The wanting versus intending, and how intending is so much more powerful?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think, we try to keep things in the present. When you say I have or I intend to have, it's always something. It's always that you're receiving it now, as opposed to hoping and wishing that it's going to happen in the future.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it really. I mean, I like the word I have it, but intending is the same thing as I have what I want. You know.
Mhm.
Neville will talk about I am. It's your I amness, or
Yes.
I am the man that I want to be. I am
Yes.
the man that has $100. I'm enjoying the $100 that I just
Yes.
received. I'm enjoying whatever, it's that I amness. So I intend something that in many times I've actually written out that I am. Only because I think it helps me to kind of imagine it differently or more powerfully. So
So
the next thing, I'm sorry,
can so
by all means.
yeah, right, because if you said, I intend to get like $500, we'll just use that.
Sure.
There is kind of a little similar, the intention with wanting for me, as opposed to when you just said I'm enjoying. If you say like I have the money and I'm enjoying having it, I don't know. Does anybody else have that about the word intend? Because intend sets kind of an intention and one of those kind of going to things for me as well.
Yeah,
See what I
I
mean?
am.
Oh, good.
Sorry, Ed, go ahead.
Uh, let me see. Can you hear me, Ray?
I can, Michael.
Yes.
I didn't realize that was
Oh,
you.
okay. Okay. Yeah. Hi. I'm Michael. Ray invited me. I'm glad to be here. Yeah. Well, what I was sharing last time on the other mastermind, I was watching a video on somebody talking about Neville, and he said, "You just accept the fact that you have it." Is what Neville was getting at. Um, like Reverend Henry, you were talking about being raised a Catholic. I was a Catholic too. One of the scripture passages I remember where Jesus says, whatsoever things you desire when you pray, believe you receive them and you will have them. And so the idea that you already have it, you accept that you already have it, hasn't manifested, but the idea that it's already manifested somehow within you, subconsciously, you just accept it, and then it manifests. I'm not explaining it very well, but it struck a note. It made sense to me.
No, I get it. What exactly what you said. I wrote it down. So like something like, is this like good? Like I accept the fact that I have just received all this money.
So what it is
Yeah.
so
Well,
to unpack it, I would say that you want to actually imagine it already receiving it or enjoying it. So it runs on the assumption that you've already received, you've already manifested, it's already happened, and now you're enjoying it.
Okay.
Does
yeah,
that
Susan,
help you?
I guess, I accept, I accept this wonderful blessing of that I now have $1,000. I accept that I have it. It's wonderful.
Oh yeah, I like that. The
You
blessing.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you just, so then you have the feeling. Ray and I were talking about this at the other mastermind, because if I think like, okay, well, I've got to work really hard on imagining that I have it, and I have to fight off all these doubts, because that seems to happen whenever I say, "Oh, I'm going to be a millionaire," and then the shadow self says, "Where's the $1 million?" But if I just say, I accept the fact that I have it, I've asked for it, I have it. Maybe it hasn't manifested, but that doesn't matter. I have it. It will manifest. It's going to manifest. I have it.
Yeah.
Because you establish the consciousness for it, and you have the have consciousness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. That was very
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I can really only speak from my own experience, and most of the times when I was able to create these fabulous things in my life, it was living from the end. It was me already manifesting. It was me already enjoying. It was me just
Mhm.
being the person that already manifested these things. And so if you're able to create that, so that's why I think the scripting is so incredibly powerful, because what you're doing is actually scripting out. So this is the next step would be actually to script out your day. This is something that I've actually changed the weather, folks. So I tell this story where I used to run a crew of guys that used to distribute door hangers. And of course, that we were at the mercy of the weather. And they would usually, the people that would hire us would give us this incredibly small windows of distribution. And I'm like, well, what if the weather goes bad? Well, then we'll have a conversation. I'm like, well, you know what? If it rains, if it rains, it would actually cost me more money, because the longer it took me to distribute that material, the longer the more expensive it would be for me. So my thing was, okay, the only way I'm going to be able to fix this is if I imagine it not raining, or actually imagining the guys actually finishing the campaign,
Mhm.
with everything being dry, with them actually imagining these guys, or me driving up the road, just inspecting their work and seeing that the pavement is dry. And oddly enough, like 10, 15 minutes after we'd wrap up the campaign, it would start raining.
Mhm. Nice.
So,
Nice. Good.
and of course, I wasn't really using scripting. I was imagining. However, this, like I said earlier in this conversation, is that if I use just imagination, my mind has a tendency to slip. But if I'm actually scripting it, then I'm staying
Right.
focused.
Right.
So this other thing that he talked about is actually scripting your day, and this is something that I've done with traffic. All right, so for a little while when I was actually driving, I work at Hanscom Air Force Base. It's about 55 minutes away, and I'd have just dealing with this traffic. It was just unreal, and I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way. And so what kept coming up to my mind is me imagining just enjoying my drive, Well, how can I do that when traffic is just horrendous? And it turns out there's actually a straight path across, let me see, Malden, Lexington, Concord, right into Bedford. And it's pretty much a straight shot. And although it's still taking me 50 minutes, I'm no longer dealing with the traffic. And
Oh.
so you would think that, just coincidental, but I don't think so. I don't think so, because I was asking for it. I was imagining myself enjoying my drive, and now I listen to a book. I listen to something inspirational as I'm driving, and although again it's taking me 50 minutes, I'm no longer dealing with the traffic.
Mm.
So I really do believe that scripting out your day, and so how does he mention it? So how I usually script is that I start off with just a headline. So I'll even give an example. I'll give you an example. No, you don't want to talk about that. Sorry, I have I journal a lot. I journal every single day, and so all right. So a headline. Here's one that I think I can talk about. View that day. Making the world a better place. What is that one that we could talk about? Suffice it to say, folks, it's just like the title of a chapter, or you're starting off with a chapter. Like my day went out, I had an awesome day today. That's the title. And under it, I give details. The drive-in was actually awesome. I was able to listen to 2 chapters of this book that I've been eager to listen to. Everything went perfectly in the office. My manager was receptive to my ideas, and I got some great input from my coworker, and I felt fulfilled. I felt like everything had come together. I love my job. That is a journal entry. So what you want to do is actually scribe it or script it as though it's the end of the day. He talks about this in the book. You want to just write out 2 or 3, it's usually 2 to 3 sentences about my day, or the thing that I wanted to actually happen within that day. Whether it was coming into money, whether it was, getting a call from a friend, whether it was actually having a pretty good day. The job that I had prior to getting the job at Hanscom, I was actually driving handicapped folks, but I was always dealing with traffic. When I remembered to actually script it, I always had good days with traffic. Didn't have to deal with it. Passengers were decent. I got tipped. But it was always at the heels of me actually scripting out my day. The things, and like I said, it wasn't, rarely was it exact. However, because I was consciously creating my day, it did unfold better. It was a better day for me. Any questions?
Well, I have a couple. One is that how focused should you be on your statements? Or should they be very specific, or should they be general?
So if you were actually journaling, Henry, if you were journaling at the end of the day, how would you write that? So say, for instance, you had a great talk at Unity Somerville. How would you script that?
I would say I was very pleased with my lesson on Sunday.
So a little more detail would actually help, but yes, that's a great start.
That's very general. That's very general. Now, if I want to get specific, I said, I am speaking to 25 people at the Sunday service.
So my thing is that I would say start small. You want to take baby steps with this.
Well, I'm a big person. I don't want to think small.
Then I would script it the way you want.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it do we think small, or do we I've never done this in this format. So I mean, I have a mastermind journal that I use every day, but that's a whole different process than this here. So this is telling me, what should I do? Should I focus on what ordinarily do on Sundays, or should I give the most dynamic Sunday service?
I would say that you want to dream big. He talks about this in the book. And one of the things that he did say, let me see if I can remember.
Because I want to see if this really works, because I haven't tried this scripting. Because I'm looking for more people at the service, so I want to see if I'm saying that I'm delivering a wonderful message to 25 people or to 10 people. Which one do you think I'm going to go with?
Well, of course, the more people, and you actually
Yeah.
just having the more dynamic session. So
Yeah.
what I'm concerned is that and because I think that manifesting is like a muscle, a manifesting muscle, is that you kind of work into it. And because if you go for the big, if you go for the gusto, you go for the big thing, and it doesn't work out, you have a tendency. Listen, again, I can really only speak from my own experience. If I start small, I take the baby steps, then I build up to it. But if I go after everything right away and it doesn't work out, then I stop doing it. I stop the process. And so my suggestion is to take baby steps. But you know what? You've been at this for a lot of years. You studied Abraham Hicks stuff. Your law of attraction. Heck, you talk about it when you conduct services.
Yes.
I would try to go after. I mean, all right. So, folks, so I've been working with Betty and Henry to kind of build a congregation, and so we recently just talked about focusing on Easter Sunday and see if we can't manifest that new wave of people. And now now it's not just one mind; it's three minds. But again, I think that I would say whatever you're inspired to do. Because there's no wrong way to do this.
Well, I'm feeling like if I say 25 additional people, but I really believe I'm only going to get 10, or I'm only going to get which one do you think I'm going to get?
You're going to get 10, of course. I mean, because
I'm feeling I'm only going to get 10.
I've said this a lot, that expectation is a powerful creator. So I certainly I want $1 million, but I expect 500. That's why I'm probably going to get the 500. I'm not going to get the million.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
So expectation is a powerful creator, and that's why I would suggest you take baby steps. Because this thing, all right, so here's a great example. Way back when I ran a mastermind group, and these guys, there was two guys that they were real estate agents, and they wanted to be $1 million agency, $1 million a year agency. But they were, I think both of them were making 20,000-30,000 each a year. But they saw themselves as making $1 million. But they realized that it hinges on your belief. So certainly we want to imagine, we want to create the bigger things in our life, but we're still held back by our beliefs. And that's the reason why I think that we should take baby steps. Because if I believe that I can make 500, then I can make 500 isn't too difficult to make. Then I believe 1,000, then 10,000, 25,000, and so on. And that's what these guys actually did. So a couple of years ago, I haven't asked them recently, they were $1 million agency.
Yes.
Yeah. Henry, have you ever heard of an evangelical preacher, Reverend Hagen? He used to talk about faith.
No, not Hagen.
You haven't heard it? Okay, well, because I was raised Catholic too, but I got into this guy, and he talked about you got to believe when you ask for something, you've got to believe it. But one of the things he said that he went on the road, he hardly had anybody coming to any of his talks or his sermons, but he just believed it was going to happen. And one of the things he said, that I would prepare my talk, the message I was going to give, and I wouldn't care if two scraggly old ladies showed up with no teeth, or if the house was full. I would prepare the message as if my life depended on it. And for whoever showed up, I gave the best message I could, whether it be 100 people or 2 people. And he said what he found out was that when he gave it that kind of effort and conscientiousness, even if a couple people showed up, the word would spread because of the quality of the sermon. And then more and more people would come. And then he said, you know, it got to be we're a standing room only. But in terms of, I know what Ray is saying too. If I try to imagine I'm making $1 million, but I'm only, you know, it's hard for me to think I can make it only 1,000, then I'm kind of, I have to, you know, I'm a work in progress. So I figure if I'm stretching and I say, okay, I can make, you know, I can maybe make an extra 500 this week and I can feel it, and then it happens, or I make a little bit more, then, you know, the next time I can go bigger. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but
Baby steps. You're taking
baby
steps.
steps, yeah.
And it hinges on your belief. If
Yeah.
I could share a story, so a lot of years ago, it took me 10 years to manifest this thing. So a lot of years ago, I'm hanging out in New York City, and I'm at this nightclub called the Copacabana. I'm sure you've all heard of it because it's very famous. And it had 2 rooms. The main room had a live performance. This particular night, they were having Spanish. In the main room, they had a band. In the second room, they had a DJ. So my friends and I were hanging out in the second room. And by that point, all 3 of us, my friends and I, we were DJs, but not, we never saw anything like this. It was just crazy. This guy was rocking the crowd. And I thought to myself, I want this. Just like how I became a DJ in the first place, I thought, I want this. And so, you know, fast forward 10 years later, I find myself in Boston recreating Coba and standing on stage, watching this crowd that's just crazy. When I say crazy, it was just everyone's having an awesome time. But it took me 10 years to manifest that thing. But it lasted 7 years. As a matter of fact, in that 7 years, we might have lost money 3 nights of that 7 years. And it was only because of storms.
Yeah.
So sometimes it takes it takes time. But I figured that I would share that story. That's one of the best manifestations I've actually experienced in my life. And it wasn't just, I mean, there was so many other things, and it wasn't just my manifestation. It was a manifestation for the DJs, for the promoters that work with me, for the radio stations, for all these people that actually came together with my promotion or for my promotion. They're all just manifested success out of it. It really was an awesome thing in my life. But I figured that I would share that story.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So any more questions, folks? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, I would just want to say that, so with like the Abraham thing, I have it on my refrigerator. Says to do things gradually, like, so if I'm in a disappointed state, I want to get more to like an anger is better than disappointment. So but I know when I listen to Abraham, and I do listen to Abraham like every morning on the videos that they have, it's usually taking it's baby steps. So I don't know, I thought of that when we were talking about it, because, and a lot of times for me, I've set myself up in a poor way to say, I'm going to make this amount of whatever to a much larger amount, and I set myself up for disappointment, and then I'm in that spectrum instead of where I really want to be. So I'm learning more to stick with the baby steps.
Gotcha. And for me, I can really only speak from my own experience, and that is that in my life. So I've said this before. Certainly, you've all heard this 1,000 times. It's not about destination; it's the journey. And so it's the journey that's actually been more fulfilling than the destination, and the journey had these twists and turns and setbacks and all this, and me just becoming that greater version. But it was always those baby steps. Even being knocked down and coming back, it was the baby step, and just kind of just just trying to figure it out, or just having a little bit more faith that things are going to work in my favor. As a matter of fact, the more faith that I had, the quicker or the better the experience was. More than I have faith in the infinite, the source or God, whatever you want to call it, that we pray to, the better the experience was.
Ray,
Sure. Yes.
I'm eager to get to the scripting part. Is that part of tonight?
So, all right. So the scripting is it's two parts. It's the want list, as I mentioned earlier. We talked about want versus intend. I intend. So what you want to do is, the first thing you want to do is make a list of the things that you want in your life, your wants, your goals, the things that you want to manifest in your life. 5 to 10 of those. But we talked about, instead of actually wording them as I want, you say I intend, or I'm experiencing this, or I'm blessed to have. If you can actually imagine yourself or having the wish fulfilled, feeling the wish fulfilled, I am blessed to have this $500. I am blessed to find my soulmate. I'm blessed, whatever you choose that is, whatever you choose that to be. I intend, I am experiencing this, I'm blessed. 5 to 10 of those, 5 to 10 wants. And then you actually script out your day. How will your day unfold? But you're actually writing as though you're writing at the end of the day.
So you
Is
use
that-
past tense. It was wonderful that I had that great meeting with so-and-so kind of thing.
Exactly. That's exactly what. And Abraham Hicks would call it pre-paving.
Mm-hmm.
Come to think about it, I remember. Actually, just and that's actually helped me a lot of times, where I'm like, I know this guy's going to be difficult. I mean, trying to convince this guy to become a client, because I run a marketing agency, and I know he's going to be difficult. But in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I can see him signing the contract, and he loves everything I hear, or everything I'm saying. And so when I've done that, when I've pre-paved, when I've actually basically scripted or imagined in my mind that meeting goes well, it usually does. This thing about actually just winging it, that has never worked for me. Like, I'll just wing it. No, doesn't work out. And I think in the grander scheme, so I heard this phrase, or maybe it actually just came to mind. I don't know if I heard it. I think that actually just came to mind. Thinking as God would. God thinks as the end, not God will actually create something thinking from the end, and then fill in the blanks. But he starts with the end, and it's just like with movies. You start with the end and you kind of fill in. But if you actually just if you're just scripting without actually having an end, then the end could be anything, and you have a tendency to kind of go left, right, and not necessarily being focused. I don't know if I'm making any sense with this. Starting with the end in mind always works. And whether it was creating goals is something, because at one point I was teaching this to other folks about actually goal setting. Always start with the end in mind. Don't start about how you're going to do it. Always start with the goal with the end, with the end in mind. And I think there was a book, 7 Laws of Success or something like that. Stephen Covey talked about always start with the end in mind.
Right.
Kim, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, it's great. I thought maybe you were going to lay out a few different techniques, but it sounds like you've been talking about them throughout the class. Right?
Yeah, I try to kind of, there are other techniques, but I don't want to confuse you. Because the scripting that I have taught my sister was just basically, just write out how that experience. So specifically what her daughter was, what does that experience look like? She actually just wrote out her having a conversation with her daughter, and what would her daughter say to her. And when all was said and done, her daughter basically said the things that she wrote. So
Wow.
scripting a day as opposed to scripting an experience. All right, so she just continued to script that experience with her daughter. So, but I'm suggesting you could probably do multiple things each day. So that's my
Ray,
suggestion.
one of the things that one of the scripting lines Neville Goddard used that I like is he says he uses isn't it wonderful how that I'm making this much money now? Or isn't it wonderful how well things went today when I saw so and so? Scripting as if it has already happened.
So tying affirmations, folks, is another great way. I'm glad, Michael, thank you for actually bringing that up. Tying in affirmations with your scripting. So Neville Goddard had that thing. He's known for, isn't it wonderful? That phrase, isn't it wonderful that I just came into money? Isn't it wonderful that, the weather actually, or isn't it wonderful that I'm feeling good today? Isn't it wonderful that I got that call from my long lost friend? Whatever you decide, but tying in an affirmation with your scripting, and I think makes it so much more powerful. Any questions? Anything somebody wants to share?
I'll share for a second.
Sure.
A new thing for me is that I just bought an RV. It's like a motor coach. And this is really inspirational because I'm afraid to drive it, kind of. I mean, like, so I'm going on further, like I'm going to Michigan this year, which is a 12-hour trip, and that's so instead I'm gonna make it's a tall one. It's like those Amazon truck.
Sure.
It's a real tall one. So I have to be careful of bridges. I have to map out ahead of time, make sure that it's 1,000 pounds. So I have to make sure it's going to fit and not be too weighed down. So instead of, so I'm focusing to refocus that in order to refocus that, I would really start at the end of the trip and say how great it was that I was achieving all of this confidence. Because it's really, for some reason, it's my lack of confidence is coming up, and I'm not usually lack of confident. That's usually not who I am, but it's exciting, but then it's super scary. So, so I'm trying to figure out how I could do that so that when I go on my first trip, which is in May, I may, yeah. So it's good.
So if I could recommend something.
Sure.
Something that I think was pretty huge, and this is something we talked about, Reverend Betty and Reverend Henry talked about 2 weeks ago, was the self-concept. So one of the things here's another book that's actually pretty powerful, Psycho-Cybernetics. Maxwell Maltz, talks about how everyone lives from their own self-concept. And Neville, and I think that even Abraham Hicks had hinted from it, that we all live from our self-concept. The things, so the thing that we see ourselves to be is the thing that unfolds in our lives. So if I tell myself that I'm a confident person, then I become a confident person. If I say that if I continue to tell myself or script it that I'm a confident driver, then I will have no fear about driving. It's basically reprogramming your mind to actually be a different person. And you can do that. Whatever you wanted to overcome, you can through affirmation and scripting, I believe.
Right. I just have to be I am a confident driver. I'm just not confident with this big.
Oh, she got to the butt.
So,
Yeah.
all right. So, but you just tell yourself that I'm a confident.
It's really building the confidence for that. But if I start at the end of the story and say what a great trip it was and how much I learned and how much more confidence I had, or maybe leave the word confident out, because that's kind of where I think I get tied up is just say the trip was great. I had a great
experience.
So one of the things that I found that's incredibly powerful, this is something that actually I remember when I wanted to become a DJ a lot of years ago, what I would do was imagine myself having a conversation with someone. So it's not me just living the end, it's me actually living the end and having a conversation with someone about the end. Like, me having a conversation with my best friend in my mind saying, I'm so grateful that the things turned out the way it did tonight. All these people loved the way I played. I'm right now I'm on top of the world. And this is me having a conversation with a trusted friend in mind. So if you can script that.
Susan, I was just thinking, yeah, if you were having a conversation in past tense saying, I was so amazed how I was able to drive through these areas that were a little risky and it went so smoothly and I drive so competently. Um,
I'm a different person.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
I'm an expert driver at this point.
yeah, I mean, I was wondering if I was gonna be able to write a script that starts out with, see now, like I said, I've been writing like up for a few days doing this, and it was like, I use the word she because somehow it's easier if I do it she, her as me. So
Mhm.
even though she started out thinking that she might not have the confidence started building and building throughout the trip,
Yeah.
and she almost immediately got it. So I think that's what I want to grab onto is that she thought she started out a little leery and really put a little of that in there. And I think that would
Right.
get me in through the gateway of it.
Yeah, because it's like you're acknowledging that you have, some scrupulous thoughts, but then you're right away imagining how you overcame that. So
Yeah, like
it makes sense that that would be
yeah, she made such a quick transformation, something like that.
right,
Focus really is a
right,
transformative situation for me in my inner self,
right.
not really about the driving. I'm a confident driver. It's the transformative process that I want
Yeah.
to focus on. So it's really about where you're going to focus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
one of the things that I don't know, when I read a book, I'm actually imagining. So if I'm reading specifically about a character in a book, I'm actually imagining that person. So I think that's a great way to start,
Mm-hmm.
because it really is. If you're, even if it is a third person, you're still imagining that you're part of that third person, or you're experiencing with that third person, and you're still creating that vibe, that vibration, or
Mm-hmm.
as Neville Goddard would talk about it, it's a state. You're actually creating that state, and so therefore sending it out to come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, however you can make that happen, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ray, one of
Betty,
the things that I was thinking of, uh, when she mentioned that she uses the word she, when we script, should we use our name? Like if I wanted to say Henry is enjoying a beautiful day, or should I say he is enjoying a beautiful day? What is the scripting suggest that using the name of the person was that more powerful than just saying he?
So one of the things that, and I've heard this from several people, and it makes sense to me, that something that's going to work for me may not work for you. So I would suggest, Henry, that you test it.
Mm-hmm.
Test it with something, two very different things.
Mm-hmm.
You as the third person, and then you as the first person.
Yeah.
I would say, because there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to test it in different ways.
But
Betty,
what
the reason
yeah,
why
it's interesting.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Henry.
It's interesting that when you said it, I feel more comfortable by saying my name rather
Mm-hmm.
than saying he. He seemed
Yeah.
distant, but when you said Henry,
Mm-hmm.
it was more powerful for me
Makes
when I
sense.
use my name in an affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. That's interesting, because it's as though, I don't know, in your mind. So, I mean, I've imagined having a conversation with my friend's success. He's actually saying something to me, or he's talking to me about my success. So what I'm hearing is his voice telling me, he calls me Ramo. Ramo, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud, man. You actually did it. You had this goal,
Mm-hmm.
and look what you've achieved, Ramo.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that feel more stronger than saying, uh, imagining someone saying, well, you did great, but never mentioning your name?
So it's more powerful because this is something he would say to me.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
if it's a
Mm-hmm.
trusted family member, or a best friend, or someone that you trust, you use the language that they would normally use to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
If they said that they were proud of you, how would they speak to you?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Make sense?
Yeah. Hey, Ray, I have another question is,
Sure.
I just, like a couple weeks ago, um, I said something to a friend who kind of misinterpreted it and is still kind of processing out. So I could make up a story talking about how she, using her name, she was starting to come around and realize that, you know, the perception was a little bit off. I mean, you could really do it about anything, couldn't you?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
could, and I told you earlier in this in this session that what I did in the past was that I scripted people different, and within 30 days they started to change. So
Okay.
Neville Goddard would talk about actually revising, where you could actually change something that happened in your past.
Yes,
Now,
yes. Mhm.
I haven't been able to. I have done this,
Mm.
and it looked like it did change some things. But again, I always convince myself, it would have happened. It's coincidental.
Mm.
But you know what? It isn't. I scripted it, I changed my past, or I changed something, and then it changed my present. So again, folks, what I would suggest is you test this stuff.
Mm.
Because the more you play with it, the more you realize that, oh my God, I am the creator of my own reality, as Neville, as Abraham Hicks would say, that you should and you should use it. You should test it. This is your life experience, like I mentioned in the beginning of this conversation or this session, is that you are responsible for your life experience. By all means, make it good, make it great, make it awesome. Now, Betty, I hadn't heard from you in a little while. That's the reason why I kept calling out to you.
So I had a couple of experiences I think would add to this conversation. One is that I've been going through some pretty stressful experiences, and my doctor wanted me to purchase a blood pressure cuff and check my blood pressure regularly. I am on meds, and I am affirming that at some point my blood pressure will drop and I'll be off of meds again. But the stress, my body is and my mind are responding to stress. So one day I was checking my blood pressure and this affirmation just popped into my head. I am a winner, clearly a winner. I don't know where that came from.
Mhm.
So I wrote it down, um, and I started just hearing that in my head. I took my blood pressure again, and it had dropped 10 points on both
Wow.
numbers.
Mhm.
Wow.
So, so I said, okay, I want to remember this. So now I have it taped to the blood pressure checker, so I remember to actually. Because a lot of days I check my blood pressure, and the affirmation's right in front of me, and I forget to do it.
Mhm.
And then I go, oh, it's right. Okay. And then I take it again, and it's dropped again. So that's one thing that's working very well. The other is I have this favorite affirmation from Catherine Ponder, and it goes, I bless this, and you fill in the blank, as the precious creation of divine bounty. And I use it all the time. I bless this day as the precious creation of divine bounty. I bless my dog as the precious creation of divine bounty, whatever. So a couple of weekends ago, I usually, when I go grocery shopping, I try to go very early in the morning on a weekday because Market Basket on Somerville Ave is mobbed,
They all
especially
are,
on,
all of them.
yeah, and especially on the weekends. But one week, I just could not get to my shopping until Saturday. And it was about midday on Saturday, and I was thinking, oh God, I have to go. I don't want to go. And then I went, wake up. So I said, I bless this day as the precious creation of divine bounty. I bless Market Basket as the precious creation of divine bounty. I bless all the people that are going to be there when I get there. And it's going to go smoothly and easily. And it was a miracle. Everything, people were so polite. There were lots of people there, but it was as though everything had slowed down to an easy pace. I found everything I needed. So it really does work, but it's all about changing what is going on in here and not what's happening out there.
I agree. I
Mhm.
agree. There was this one affirmation that I had learned from this girl. She said, I'm the luckiest, I'm the luckiest person in the world. I'm the luckiest person in the world. And so scripting that, or actually just in the beginning, I'm the luckiest person in the world. Look what actually unfolded today. But
Mhm.
I'm also a firm believer in that robotic affirmations where you just continue to repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it,
Yes.
repeat it. Because you don't give any opportunity for your mind to drift. You just keep
Mhm.
repeat,
Right.
repeat, 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 repeat.
Yes, repetition.
Repetition is huge.
Yes, and it generates energy. The more you, if it's and the other thing I teach about affirmations is if you're not being energized by your affirmation anymore, go get another one. Because if it's working for you, your energy level is going to go up. It builds as you repeat, repeat, repeat. It builds up your energy level.
Excellent. Is there any other questions? Excellent. Well, I hope that everyone found this to be beneficial. I certainly have. I
Yes.
love talking about this stuff. And at some point, I think I'd like to do something. So right now, I'm meeting with a group every Tuesday, and I don't know, perhaps because one of the things that this woman who had the group before me, this meetup group, fun with the law of attraction, she was having something every Sunday night. I don't know if I can do that, but certainly maybe every other week, because I think again, I'm all about trying to give as much value as I can to others. And if we just had a conversation, just talking about law of attraction and our own experiences, so one of the things I was teaching way back when, years ago, was that and I think this is what she was doing. She was choosing a chapter out of a book and she would discuss it. And what I was doing with Think and Grow Rich, I was choosing a chapter, and then I would focus on that week. I would talk about whatever the chapter was, whether it was the definite chief aim or the mastermind or making the decision. Just actually what I actually circled back with my group that I meet with on Tuesdays, talking about actually making the decision and how powerful that is. Making the decision and actually following through. And I would hope that everybody on the call tonight would make a decision that, scripting does work and that you're dedicated to actually doing it. Make a decision to follow through because it's so easy to get off that. I teach this stuff for Christ's sakes. And how often have I forgotten, like, oh, I'll get to it later. And then I don't get to it because that's how, even years teaching it, I can teach that on a weekly basis and still get off my, off my plan. So again, one of the things that I've actually learned in my life, and certainly those that actually been successful with any form of manifestation, is consistency.
Mhm.
You got to be consistent with it because it's so easy to fall off.
Mhm.
I laugh because it's happened so many times in my life. I think that I could be so further because I asked myself, I talked to this guy's my group and asked, at this point in my life, I should be a millionaire. I should have everything in my life, but because I haven't been consistent, I don't have it. Don't get me wrong. I have a decent life. I just don't have the life that I would love to have, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
Sure
Yeah,
you
it's
all can
still
relate.
within. It's still on the potential level, not on the manifestation level.
Exactly.
Yes.
Hopefully, I keep saying that, 2025 is my year.
Yeah.
So, and the last time I did that, 2017 was a pretty huge year for me. So speaking, talking about manifesting. So I was on this kick about trying to understand relationships. And so I asked myself, I had all these relationships. Did the one get away? And I don't know if we all asked that. Like I had a relationship with this woman. Was she the one? And I slowly but surely, I think it was about 5 or 6 of them. 6 of my exes came back into my life. I manifested all 6 in 2017. And I got an opportunity to sit down with all of them and ask them the question, are you the one? Was I the one for you? No. All of them said no. And what it was is, it just, it spoke to our lives. You know, she was the right person at that time, and then it was time to move on.
Yes,
Yes.
They were a
Mhm.
part of the journey, not the destination, basically.
right,
Mhm.
So, just a little spiel or my
right.
little share of my life.
Ray, this is Kim again. I have something to add. When you were saying I think about your DJ time,
Yes.
club, it might have been Greg Braden talking one time where I heard this, and it might have come from a Native American practice of this kind of stuff. Anyway, they said when you include the benefits to others,
Mhm.
it like expands your manifestation.
Mhm.
So you know, for money, for example, that I live comfortably and have plenty of money for everything I desire and require, and the people I want to support and gift, and the projects they get to initiate. And
Mhm.
so sometimes it can be fun to expand your good to think about who else benefits, and
Mhm.
kind of magnifies it, I guess. Does that make sense?
Well, let me share
Yeah.
an experience that happened to me just yesterday.
Mhm.
And this is kind of scary that I say this jokingly, but I really do believe it, that my thoughts are very powerful. And what it is there are certain people that can pick up, or so I ask myself the question, can they hear my thoughts? And the answer is yes. All of them. If I think of someone, they all, they're not aware of it, but it is coming into their minds. And so
Mhm.
here's a great example. I thought of this one woman. This I hadn't heard from her for a little while, and I kept thinking about her. And this has happened 2 or 3 times. She's actually said, "You know, I've been thinking about you all day." So there's a one individual part of the mastermind group is that I really do think that he needs to do something about his health. He's extremely overweight. He's obese, and I couldn't help but think about it. He didn't join the call last night. And I'm just concerned about him. And so later on, after the mastermind call, he would give me a call, and everything that I was thinking about, he voiced. Now, you could say it's so coincidental, but there were 5, 6, 7 things that I was thinking about, specifically geared toward his health, that he had spoken to, that he was concerned about. So this thing about actually grouping people into your thoughts or into your manifestation is but realize this, you're not just doing, in my experience, again, I can only really speak from my own experience. When I group people into my visualization, or when I'm actually imagining them, or even scripting, there's a good possibility they're actually hearing that. Kind of scary, but in my experience, they actually do.
Mhm.
Well, as you are radiating your energy, everyone is picking up on something that you're sending out. You have to realize that
Mhm.
you know, people just think that our thoughts are silent and no one else is hearing them. But there's a lot of people picking up on everything that you're sending out.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
I
you're
think it was
sending out good
Abraham.
thoughts.
I think
go ahead.
it was Abraham Hicks that said, "Wherever you go, you take yourself with you." And
There
so-
you go. Hey,
Yeah.
Mhm.
there you are. So be careful what you're thinking.
You know what? We jokingly say that, Henry, but you know what? There's a lot of truth to that, because there's been
Yeah.
instances where I don't want to get a call from so and so, and yeah, I'm thinking about her, and so she calls. I'm like, I didn't want to talk to you, for Christ's sakes. Come on.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, when you talk about a practice that's consistent, it's like, it reminds me, since I'm much older and I go to a gym 3 days a week, and I can see new people coming in every week, and you can just see the numbers of how many people that will consistently come and those that will not. There's the energy that they have. You know that they're only going to be there for that one thing, and they're thinking they're going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger within half an hour. And I've been doing this for 20 years. And I'm just going out, just mind my own business. But I'm observing the younger people and the older people, and when they come in, and you can tell their energy, how they move. That they're telling you all about where they're gonna be consistent. And it reminded me when I was a lot younger and I was working full time, and my spiritual practice was sort of put on hold depending on how fast I needed to get to the work, get to my office. We rush, we jump up early, we get up, we run out of the house, and prayer is probably, and meditation and this stuff, scripting is probably the last thing on my mind if I was working. About 20 years ago, I probably would have put this on my last, on my evening agenda. But I had learned that beginning my day with affirmations and with I'm sure I will try the scripting. And of course, I use the daily word as something that's consistent affirmations about my life. And I've been doing it for 30, 40 years. And I think that is one of the things that has helped me create the kind of life that I want and keep the negativity away from me and not focusing on from all the stuff outside of me. But you're right about as far as practice, you can tell the consistency because you experience it, you feel it, and that the things that you're working on always work out.
So yeah, so there's a phrase that I use frequently. Certainly, I mention it to the guys in the group. My mastermind group is own your morning, own your day. And so I've been trying to get them motivated to actually start their day with something, whether it's scripting, whether it's affirmation, whether it's meditation, do something, start your day with some sort of spiritual work, some internal work, and your day will unfold better.
Yeah.
So own your morning, own your day. I think, again, if it isn't scripting, do something where you're somehow internalizing your life.
Yeah.
And having hopefully having some faith and expectation that things are unfolding as you would hope them to. Awesome. This was a great session. And like I said, I hope everybody got something out of it. And I'll keep you posted. Maybe we'll do something in the next couple of weeks as well, or again.
Yeah, I would like to see us go deeper with this book. Continue down this path of scripting, maybe go chapter by chapter with the scripting book and really learn some of these techniques and ideas that he shares, because it's very detailed and
So
very.
I at one point, or so he talks about the principle or why it works, and then he goes into the techniques, and then he goes deep into the research.
Yeah.
And so I after I guess 2 or 3 chapters into the research, I'm like, am I getting any value of this? I probably might have if I stayed with it, but certainly it after listening to Kim say, are you going to start talking about the scripting now? So perhaps maybe it does make sense that we kind of dive into it a little bit more deeply. And perhaps maybe, I mean, if you guys, I would suggest even trying it out, just testing it, whether it's just writing something out, how you want something to manifest, or you're doing something on a daily. I'd say everybody on the call, try this, try something, try scripting. And I don't know, we come back in the next call in 2 weeks and see how everything worked out. And then we could maybe choose a chapter where we talk about specifically what I know that he dives in deeper where he talks about when you're scripting your day, or actually when you have your want list, you're choosing something specific that you expect that's more apt to actually happen. So there's a group of things, but there's something that you really do expect. I think he calls it the mundane thing that you expect to really, only because it's somehow it broadens your manifestation power by actually writing down something that is actually going to manifest.
Yes.
Somehow programs your mind differently. So yeah, I mean, I'm open to it.
Yeah.
What's the author's name again, Ray?
Royce Christyn.
Right.
Royce Christyn. All right, folks. Again, awesome call. And so what I'll do is, what we could do is actually set a date. Does Wednesday work for everybody?
Would it be 7 to 9?
7 to 9, yeah.
Yeah. I actually really enjoyed this. I would come back and go more into depth about it. Sounds
Maybe
really
the 9th of What is happening on the 9th? Why does that day sound familiar? Let me check my schedule first. The 9th is open,
The 9th of April?
the 9th of April. Falls on a Wednesday.
Mm. Yeah, I have a Zoom meeting that night at 6:15.
Would you wrap it up by 7?
It would be
Would you-
nice, wouldn't it? I could write that down. I could script it.
Yeah.
you go.
Yes.
Is everybody, are you okay with that, Susan?
Well, you're not really giving me any other choices that I hear, so.
Well,
What
I mean,
about
we
the
can move it into
16th?
the 16th if you wanted to. I'm flexible.
Oh, I see. Well, sooner's better, so, unless you picked a different day, but you're definitely sticking with Wednesdays?
Hmm. Well, I might, there's an event that's happening in the 10th, and Friday is usually pretty chaotic. Tuesdays are, like, we could do Monday, the 7th.
I
Oh,
don't
no.
do Mondays.
No, you don't do Mondays.
Mm.
Everybody
Mondays
doesn't do-
It kind of goes
Mondays.
for other people too, so, yeah, no, I'll try to see if I can, switch that, because I really want to come to, I really like this. I was going to a Course in Miracles group and they changed the book to, with the Way of Mastery. And I'm reading the Way of Mastery, but we're in like book 3. And it's just, I don't like book 3 for some reason. And I feel like I'm so much more into Abraham right now than Course in Miracles. That was like, I was in that like 30 years ago. And
Yeah, me too.
yeah, and now Course in Miracles does not interest me as much as Abraham because it's so uplifting and positive and it's present. It's being in the present moment and present and future, and it's so exciting. I think so. Yeah, I'm gonna try to see if I can switch that other meeting on the 9th.
To be quite honest, I didn't realize, and listening to Royce in his book, talk about Abraham and how it inspired. Certainly, The Secret may have touched a lot of people, but The Secrets actually had come from the teachings of Abraham Hicks.
Yeah,
So it really is, they were the start of a lot of things, a lot of people's,
mhm.
You think that Rhonda got her material from Abraham?
yes.
Well, she got
Oh.
her.
No,
Yeah.
actually, she said it was the science of getting rich, or science. She said it was another book, but I don't.
Yeah,
I have.
Science of Getting Rich. Yeah, I've got that
Right.
book.
I have
on
a,
my
but I
shelf.
have a strong suspicion that she also was inspired by Abraham Hicks.
Oh no, you know what it was? Secret of the Ages. I have that book behind me. See, that's where Rhonda got her material. That was the first thing that was in the Secret.
What was it?
She was running through all that material.
Yeah, who was Secret of the Ages by?
I'd have to look it up, but I can't remember who it is. But
I
it's
remember
behind
that.
me.
Yeah, I remember that book. Yeah, I think I have it as well. I have to look
Yeah.
at it.
Secret of the Ages. That's the one.
Yeah.
Well, Abraham Hicks had just answered a lot of questions that I had about, the afterlife and why we're really here, and because it just made sense to me. I was like, I had these questions that sat in the back of my mind until I started hearing their teachings. I'm like, that makes sense. And then it spawned a lot of things in me where I started asking different questions of me, having an expectation that things are going to be answered. And so there was a lot of questions. I was like, how about this? And how about that? But had I not learned about the teachings of Abraham, I wouldn't have never asked those questions. So it certainly had inspired, the path that I'm on.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing is, Henry, I mean, so with A Course in Miracles, the thing is that it almost seems a little bit like you should be doing, it's like almost finger pointing, like, shame on you, who your brother and your sister, blah, 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 but you're not, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, keep telling me I'm not, because how can I be there if you're telling me I'm not? So
Right.
that's why Abraham is much more attractive, because it's like, get out of, I'm not, your brother, your sister, should kind of a thing. And the Way of Mastery is kind of like that as well. So boy, how refreshing is Abraham Hicks? And it's like, no, it's not your fault. And you can manifest whatever you want. You deserve to have whatever material thing you want. I mean, how delightful is that?
Yes.
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah. Yep. And it's
So
Robert Collier that's the author of Secret of the Ages.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
that's right. Yep, that's right.
COL.
Lier.
Collier. Yep.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Wow. Yeah, that was a great book. It was amazing because when I saw it on The Secret, I went, wait a minute, I think I have that book.
Mhm.
I thought it was Science of Getting Rich that was inspired her. But I could have swore I saw some things that I heard from Abraham also come up. I don't know. I might be. It's all just
All is the
jumbled
same.
around in my mind about all this stuff.
She has a Esther, she has a whole video on it about, because someone suggested that they took it from somebody else, and there's a whole
Mhm.
video right about that whole thing.
Yeah, because she
Actually,
didn't want
the
Yeah.
newer version removed Abraham from their
to,
from
right
the
from The Secret, yes.
secret.
Yeah, yes. Right. And so they go right, Abraham goes into that whole thing.
The whole thing, yeah. Right.
Happened, yeah. I forgot what they said, but
No, I
Yeah.
don't think they gave any details. They didn't want to stir the pot with it.
oh,
They
maybe
said-
that was why I didn't know. Yeah, maybe, yeah. Yeah.
And I said, well, it was a disagreement. Who was responsible? Whose material was it? And so I think that
Right.
she wanted she wanted to hold claim to it. And I'm like, well, this is the stuff we teach. What do you mean how could you,
Right.
we're infinite source. We're the source. And you're actually,
Yep.
how can you hold claim to this when we're the
Yeah,
source,
you
for
know,
Christ's sakes? What the
Yeah,
heck?
nobody has a copyright on truth.
Mhm.
Right, exactly.
Amen.
You know, and think about everyone's going to come with their interpretation of the truth, and but no
Mhm.
one's has a copyright on it. So regardless of who
Right.
you are, they all,
Yes.
and I've read a lot of people over the years from before before The Secret, and this goes back to, like you were talking about, Tony Robbins and his material, and
Mhm.
there was a group that I used to listen to at night called Flow Dreaming, and this woman was she said that you put this CD in and play it at night, and you're supposed to it helps you to generate the positive dreams, that a manifestation of money, the relationships, the right job, the career, all of this stuff. And she still has her website called Flow Dreaming, and it helped me at a certain stage in my life. Now, I'm good with something else. So there's a lot of people that's got material out there.
Mhm. Mhm.
Did you say 9th is going to be the day that you're going to?
The 9th. Yeah, we'll shoot for the 9th.
Yeah.
Let me mark that down. Because if it doesn't get written down, it doesn't get done.
Yeah.
7.
Yeah. And the Science of Getting Rich is Wallace Wattles.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
He's got some great books too.
Mhm.
Yes.
Is it easy to read?
Oh yeah.
Mm,
It's kind of like Secret of the Ages.
Okay.
He goes back way back.
Mhm.
You probably could find the audio version on YouTube.
Yeah.
Run a search.
Probably can't.
All right, folks, I'm going to sign off. But again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on the call, and we'll see you on the 9th.
Yeah. Well,
All
thank you.
Thank you so much.
thank
Thanks,
Yeah.
Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Ray.
You're very welcome.
Thanks a lot.
All
Take care.
right.
Have a blessed night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.